I'm a huge fan of Eric Johnson, so I'm not going to say we can get the exact tones of Eric Johnson. I think that's kind of hallowed ground. But here's kind of a preset which is trying to get within that ballpark that I've put together. I'm going to share some of the key settings with you, but if you want to grab the preset, it'll be in my Gumroad folder, which is kind of like a dynamic roam folder. So if you pay for it once, you can save the link and then just keep coming back for these new tones, or pay again if you feel really generous. These videos are brought to you by G66 UK, where you can get your FM3s, your FM9s and your Axe-Fx 3s from the UK without paying import charges, and there's a UK service centre. So first of all, I've got this scene 1 where we've got the delay hold, and if you press your pedal down like that, you can basically do the thing that he does with his Boss DD3. To achieve that, basically I've got this digital mono type here at 500 milliseconds, and then if you right click here, just select source 1, and then kind of, yeah, that's all there is to that. So first of all, we've got the dynamic comp with compression at 7.9, attack time 3.165, release time 80.95, and the mix at 56.5, and the level at 12. That's pushing things up front into the amp. The amp that I'm using is the Double Verb normal. You could also use the vibrato channel, one of the two, but gain relatively low for really crystal clear tones, and bass at 6.68, mids at 5, treble at 5, and that kind of gives you your kind of Eric Johnson-esque things. The cabs that I'm using here are the 4x12 Rumble, so Factory 2 903. That's a Dumble cab with an EV12 speaker. Eric Johnson has used those in real life. I think he also uses a JBL, but I couldn't quickly find anything to that effect on the Fractal device, but I'm sure there are somewhere. And then Factory 1, cab number 668 in Factory 1. So kind of a 2x10 and an EV12. I think that's the more important one for really, really clean tones. Then going into ambient stereo, and yeah, you can see basically the settings there. Relatively lowish mix, 15%, although that actually I think works out at about 30%. And feedback left 40, feedback right 10. Get this. Then you could take this ratio down. Importantly, we have a chorus after the delay, so digital stereo for this as well. You see the settings, the mix at 25%, so not crazy chorus, but just enough. Eric Johnson himself uses the, what's it called? TC Electronic kind of stereo chorus type thing. Then go into the reverb. Here I'm using a large plate. That seems to work quite nicely for this. You could go for something longer, but I wanted something that would work as well with the kind of distorted tones. So we've just got kind of that reverb, which other things that work quite nicely there though are like the Nimbus Stratus and stuff like that if you're going for some more ambient tones. Then an enhanced block after the reverb, modern width 50%, depth 50%, and the low and high cut 2000 and 100. Without that, I think anyway, so that's kind of the clean tones. Then onto the delete tones. So for this, I'm using a drive, delay, amp, cab, delay, reverb, and then a bit of parametric EQ. So First of all, he uses in real life a Chandler tube driver or BK Butler tube driver, however you want to think about that. I think it's BK Butler is the guy who did it first. He tends to have the volume down quite low. I've upped it myself a little bit just because, I don't know, for me I felt like I wanted a little bit more gain. The bass and treble are off. Those are treble and bass boosts on the real thing. The gain I've pushed to 6.33 and the level to 2.5. And then I've got a graphic EQ kind of scooping some of these mids. Without this, it got really, really quite honky. So I wanted to get away from some of that tone so that it kind of worked. So it worked in that kind of way. Okay, so that's kind of the first drive. Then in real life, he uses like an Echoplex going into the front of his amp. And so you want to, the amp is going to be set dirty. So you want to keep this mix nice and low. Adjust it to taste. So yeah, I'm using the mono tape and I've just adjusted really just the mix to try and keep that, and basically that when you stop playing, it's going to be a bit louder, versus whilst you're playing it should kind of duck out of the way. Then I'm going into the Plexi 50 watt jump. So his settings look something like this. In real life he jumps the channels and goes treble and normal gain up full. And then he sort of adjusts, the treble and presence are normally off and the mids and bass are normally sort of below 5, so mids around 3 and then bass around 3. I've just adjusted from there really. But I've also gone into the input EQ. I've added a low cut in, so 414.2 and the high cut 24375 and the definition 4.4. The reason being I wanted to kind of just focus things a little bit more. I don't know if we've got anything else going on. Just input EQ. There's a bunch of other settings that you might want to play with, but that was kind of my starting point, really. Then cab-wise, I've got my own cab that I'm going to chuck into the folder here. This was a shot of my Mesa Boogie Lone Star, which has the Celestion Lead 80, close-ish speakers to that, which I think Eric Johnson for his lead tones does tend to use the Celestion Lead 80. Importantly though, quite an aggressive high cut and low cut, so 169 low cut and the high cut coming down to 2351.5 with a 6 decibel slope, 6 decibels per octave slope. And that is going to kind of take off any of the fizzy stuff so that it's really quite a darkish, but you know, that kind of violin. Doing that sort of thing. Then I've got a stereo tape delay here, and again you might want to do this sort of thing where it gets out of the way of the middle a bit more. Okay, so that's stereo tape delay, which I've got after the cab. I kind of just doubled up delay there to give us a bit of a bigger stereo feel. This one really is kind of optional. You could go for... all down the center, but I kind of like the feel of it being in stereo. Chorus bypassed, and then just a plate reverb, same settings there, and the enhance comes off. Here, crucially, to bring back a little bit of presence after we've kind of been quite aggressive with the cab high cut, what I decided was to use a shelf EQ at 4354.1 with the gain pushed up by kind of 5.75, and that helps to kind of just to bring things back, sort of a bit more presence, so that it's a little bit more forward again. You could even go higher with that if you wanted to, a bit more gain. So that's basically the preset. A few kind of options. If you want your hold, then scene 1 with your expression pedal can do that kind of Boss DD3 holding thing. But then definitely kind of getting me that sort of vibe, although I'm not, saying that this is absolutely perfect, but for me, it's closer than some of my past attempts to get this sort of thing happening. So hopefully you'll dig that as well. Give that a try. I found that the 100-watt Marshall Plexis were a little bit too much bass in them, really. So yeah, that's why I've gone for the 50-watt. He has gigged both in the past. But yeah, hopefully you'll find something in there that you could make some use of. In particular, I think the delay hold. Could, definitely do that sort of thing that Eric does at the start of the Cliffs of Dover type stuff. So I'm looking really at Venus Isle for my inspiration for these tones. That's my favourite Eric album. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you another soon. Gumroad will be where I chuck this alongside that IR, and let's just do that now. So jump into the Gumroad link below if you want to check that out, and thanks to G66 for the support. Cheers for now.